Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our live and special coverage for the aftermath of the deadly earthquake that struck Turkey and left over 4,000 casualties. I'm Ahmed Al-Wasmi, and I will bring you the latest updates, discussions, and news about this tragic incident. This comes after a deadly earthquake that struck the city of Kahraman Maras, which killed more than 3,419 and injured more than 21,000. We will cover in this live coverage all the details and updates, and we will several phone calls. We are going to receive them, of course, and authorities and organizations regarding the aid process and the latest development. As you know, that the state of Kuwait has always been a pioneer in the humanitarian efforts and sending aids to people in need across the globe. We will shed the light on the Kuwaiti authorities' role and the aid process done by the Kuwaiti governmental bodies and non-governmental organizations that did not hesitate to be the first to send aid to the affected countries. Before we go on in our show, let us kick things off with our first report of the day.
Following the aftermath of the 7.8 magnitude earthquake that hit Turkey and Syria, His Highness the Emir Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, may Allah protect him, directed a rescue mission via air to aid and support Turkey people in their hours of need. 8 tons from the Ministry of Health and Kuwait Red Crescent of primary medical materials, 6 rapid intervention vehicles with a team of 45 search and rescue firefighters. All went to the Turkish territories by 2 military aircrafts as vanguards of the air relief bridge.
As we planned, we have order from His Highness Emir of Kuwait to go and support a humanitarian mission to Turkey, South Turkey actually. We're going and support with the fire brigade. Going with us to Turkey, we're going to take them for search and rescue teams. And Kuwait is always supporting humanitarian missions toward any countries that allies or friends around us in the world.
We take the submissions from the headquarters of Government of Kuwait Excellencies and the head of the Princess of Kuwait yesterday, the order to supporting all the disasters is happening to Turkey for the earthquakes is happening there, and we support them with technical rescue teams, and we take the order with the fully appliances and with the fully equipped to send them there to help our neighbors and the human being to saving the lives there for the disaster, to supporting them. And today they are flying to the Turkey with a fully equipped and 40 of firefighters of the specialist technical rescue with the fully equipped and the equipment. Today they will be arriving, and God bless them. And this is always Kuwait supporting of the, as a human politics from the government excellencies to support any countries they need any help. And this is the policies of our countries, Kuwait.
Kuwait will continue to send rescue missions and material support to Turkey and Syria to come out of the disaster, especially that new minor earthquakes were recorded in other areas and blizzards are expected to hit the regions. This is Mariam Ludwahi for Kuwait Channel 2 News.
Kuwait continues through its bodies and institutions to offer humanitarian assistance that shows the country's keenness on helping friends and brothers in several countries. Join us now, Fahad Al-Masoud, political analyst, by the phone call. Good evening, sir, and thank you so much for being with us.
Good evening. Thank you for having me for in your program.
It's our pleasure. Sir, what is your assessment of the speed of the state Kuwait's response to Turkey's relief after the earthquake?
Yes, it was a quick response as usual. Kuwait plans urgent relief campaigns for Turkey, Syria earthquakes. Under the Supreme Leadership's directives, is coordinating urgent relief aid campaigns as usual for people affected by the massive earthquake that disjointed parts of Turkey and Syria. Charity also and the relief bodies across the country of Kuwait are being invited also, and they are interactive with this event, the tragedy events, to participate in the endeavor. These organizations have already launched online donation campaigns to raise funds for the task ahead. These projects will receive Ministry of Social Affairs supervision as usual, as per the standard procedures. Also, in addition to that, the Kuwait Air Force also, military on yesterday, Tuesday, sent a pair of planes carrying urgent aid for the victims of the powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake that struck Turkey's southern border with the northern region of Syria. So all of these aids and all of these equipment that's been sent, it is indicating that Kuwait is proactive for this help aids to Syria and Turkey, who have been the earthquake happened there, and helping also the rescuers. Some rescuers were also sent by Kuwait to help rescuers to rescue all people under the wreckage of these earthquakes.
Mr. Masoud, could you elaborate about the history of the state of Kuwait regarding aiding people and providing assistance across the globe?
Yes, Kuwait is recognized a high international status as humanitarian center. The acknowledgement of this Kuwait as an international humanitarian it came because of the proactive activities since for more than 6 decades. Among the reasons that led to this honorable status include humanitarian aid offered by Kuwait for nations and people in need, relief campaigns, as we are currently undergoing, and humanitarian initiatives launched and hosted by the state of Kuwait to offer support for the affected people around the world. Humanitarian initiatives also, the Decent Life Fund, which Kuwait has contributed $100 million to during the Islamic Economic Forum, a contribution of $500 million for the reconstruction of Eastern Sudan Conference. Also, humanitarian financial contributions to UNRWA and the United Nations Humanitarian Committee. The announcement of the provision of loans to African countries in the amount of $1 billion at the third Arab African Summit, and doubling the annual contribution of Kuwait to United Nations Central Emergency Response Fund for Africa. Kuwait also hosted many regional and international humanitarian conferences. The humanitarian role, Kuwaiti associations and charities delivering aid to affected countries, as usual. Also, contributions of the Kuwait Red Crescent Society and the international Islamic charitable organizations and relief and assistance to countries in need. Also, the civilian societies of Kuwait also contributing on these relief aids. Kuwait also hosted conferences for donors in support of the humanitarian situations in Syria and in Yemen, all of these countries, appointing a dedicated United Nations office for the coordination of humanitarian assistance in Kuwait. Also, we have appointed a dedicated United Nations office for the coordination of humanitarian affairs located in state of Kuwait. So all of these events and contributions, historical, that make Kuwait as a leader and pioneer in the relief campaigns.
Engineer Fahad Al-Masoud, political analyst, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for your having us in this program. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Kuwait's Foreign Minister Sheikh Salim Abdullah Al-Sabah offered his condolences to the Turkish government and people on the destructive earthquake victims. In a message it described in the condolences later in the Turkish embassy, Foreign Minister expressed deep sorrow and sincere solace on the grave calamity that killed hundreds, left thousands of missing, injured, and many of demolished properties. The minister reiterated Kuwait's sympathy and solidarity with the Turkish people and its support to help them overcoming the ramifications of this crisis. The foreign minister also offered Kuwait's condolences to the families of the victims, wishing those injured a swift recovery and for those missing to be found.
هذه مأساة إنسانية كبيرة جدا، وأنقل تعازي القيادة الكويتية والشعب والحكومة الكويتية للحكومة والشعب التركي على هذا المصاب. أعداد الضحايا في تزايد، وهذا يدمي قلوبنا في الكويت، وإحنا واقفين مع الشعب التركي الشقيق، وسنقدم له كافة المساعدات الضرورية من جانبنا. ويعني هذه مأساة يعني كبيرة جدا، وأمانة قلوبنا تدمي لما نشهده يوميا على شاشات التلفزيون بالنسبة للي حاصل. فنتمنى أن هذه الأزمة تمر، وإحنا أكرر بأننا واقفين مع الشعب التركي في محنته هذه. طبعا ذكرت أمس أن فور علم القيادة بالزلزال ووجود مواطنين في المناطق المتضررة، أمر سيدي سمو الأمير الله يحفظه بإرسال طائرة إجلاء فورا، وتم العمل على ذلك، وسمو ولي العهد الله يحفظه وسمو الرئيس تابعوا عملية إرسال الطائرة، والطائرة بالفعل ذهبت إلى تركيا أول أمس، وأجلت المواطنين اللي قدروا يوصلون لهذه الطائرة، وفي مجموعة ثانية تم إجلاها أمس إلى أنقرة عبر الطرق البرية، فهم موجودين الحين مع سفيرنا في أنقرة، وسيتم ارجاعهم الى ارض الوطن ان شاء الله اليوم. في اعداد حصرناهم، وهم يعني تقريبا 30 مواطن من المناطق المتضرره، واحنا رح نعلن عن مساعدات اضافيه ان شاء الله. شكرا لكم جميعا. هذه
Devastating earthquakes shook the world, uttering nothing but brotherly stances to aid the Turkish Republic and Syria. Kuwait is racing time to extend a humanitarian hand, lifting off our brothers and sisters in those nations, manifested by Kuwaiti aid and medical equipment carried through airplanes, performed by Kuwaiti personnel from the Kuwait Fire Force, Kuwait Red Crescent Society, Kuwaiti Army, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Ministry of Health. Kuwait expresses solidarity in facing such catastrophic earthquakes.
And we are back right here in the studio. With us, our first guest. Joining men in the studio is Mr. Farouk Khazal, a volunteer from the Kuwait Red Crescent Society, to shed the light on the role of KRCS and its volunteers to aid people in need around the world in general, and in our case, earthquake-struck Turkey. Mr. Farouk Khazal, thank you so much for being with us. We understand that you just came from there and you're still working on the helping people, and you're working everywhere in the state of Kuwait and around the globe, and you're providing all the assistance that the people in Turkey and Syria, they are needed. Could you tell us exactly what's going on? What about the air bridge that it's taken place from Kuwait to Turkey?
Good evening to you. First of all, we started, it was very fast response today before. We gathered our well-trained volunteers and we did a very heavy meeting together with them, and we prepared them just to send them to Turkey. Yesterday we had our volunteers, they've been to Turkey with their equipment and food supplies. So we started our bridge last night to Turkey.
What about the volunteer people? Did you get more volunteers locally and internationally? People are contacting you to provide you some kind of assistance that the Turkish people are needing?
Yeah, sure. Our community, our Kuwait Red Crescent Society, their door is open for everyone. So we are hosting and welcoming every volunteer. They are ready to help and work with us.
Well, for those of you who are joining us, His Highness the Emir order and direct everyone in the state of Kuwait, specifically the Red Crescent Society, to open a bridge, an air bridge from here to Turkey and also to Syria. Before we go on, we have this break. Stay with us. We have a lot more with Mr. Khazal.
Following the instructions of His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Nawaf al-Ahmed al-Jabir al-Sabah, may Allah protect him, Kuwait Red Crescent urgently reached to the Turkish authorities to provide support as well as collaborating with Arab Red Crescent agencies to deliver aiding materials for damaged areas in northwest Syria.
The Turkish Red Crescent, and we discussed with them the needs they want, and they said we need medical equipment and medicine, and since then we contact Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Health and Ministry of Defense. We got the medicine from Ministry of Health. Regarding Syria, we arranged with the Arab Organization for Red Cross and the Crescent to help the affected people in Syria, and they will be buying things and they will distribute it for them.
8 tons of primary medical materials and logistic and technical support went to Turkey yesterday. Also, there are calls for supporting donations, local and regional, to compensate what has been lost. Following the instructions of His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Nawaf al-Ahmed al-Jabir al-Sabah, may Allah protect him, Kuwait Red Crescent urgently...
And we are back in the studio with me, the guest, Mr. Farouk Khazal, a volunteer from Kuwait Red Crescent Society, to shed the light on the role of the KRCS and its volunteers to aid people in need around the world in general, and in our case, the earthquake which struck Turkey. Mr. Farouk, let's go back to the main subject, and this is the only subject that the world is talking about. And humanitarian aid is being helped, and it's underway to the people in need in Turkey and in Syria. Let's go back and let's talk about the Operation Rescue.
Well,
what exactly is going on? What's the Kuwait's role in this dimension?
Well, our job right now is delivering all the equipment, medical aid, food as well, shelters. So our volunteers, they are here in Kuwait. They are preparing these cargoes to Turkey. Yesterday we sent a lot, and today we prepared a lot of them. Thousands of blankets, thousands of food cartons, thousands of heaters as well. And tomorrow early morning they will fly to Turkey. And our other team in Turkey, they are side by side with the Turkish Red Crescent, helping them.
When you said that you have some kind of supplies, food and blankets and etc., and probably heat systems and something like that, and medicine as well as that, do you think that the borders, that you have some kind of obstacles, some kind of difficulties from here to there, or is it smooth sailing?
No, actually, because due of the earthquake, it will not be very smooth. It will be certainly, it's very difficult.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but because there is a good communication between Kuwait government and Turkey government, they're trying just to make the thing easy to reach the ground zero and just to support the Turkey people.
See, that's why I ask you, because nowadays, by itself, smooth, no disaster, it's kind of a little bit difficult to move from one country to another. Now exactly. You have this affected disaster and people are in chaos.
Exactly.
People are running here and there and trying to do their best. So overall, everything, inshallah, it's going smoothly. And we hope to see you once again in different situation in our studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Farouk.
Thank you for hosting us.
Our pleasure. Well, we'd like to thank Mr. Farouk Azhal for being here, and we have another report coming up next. Stay with us.
Turkey is still under the shock of the deadly earthquake that struck the city of Kahramanmaraş along with 10 other states, killing more than 3,419 and injuring more than 21,000. This outcome is not final, with officials confirming that number of victims is constantly increasing due to the continuation of the search and rescue operation in parallel with President Erdogan declaring a state of emergency in 10 states for 3 months in the earthquake zone, stressing that Turkey is facing one of the biggest disasters not only in its history but also in the region and in the world.
We are working on managing the disaster, coordinating rescue operations. There are serious difficulties that hinder the work of rescue teams due to the destruction and the weather. And despite that, we use all capabilities to help those affected by the earthquake.
Turkish Vice President talked about the difficulties facing the country in transporting aid to the affected areas due to the bad weather conditions, while pointing to the arrival of more than 3,000 international rescue personnel to Turkey to participate in the search and removal efforts.
International rescue personnel arrived to Turkey to participate in the search and rubble removal efforts. We use trained dogs and search operations and to extract the afflicted under the rubble. Schools and universities have also been opened to citizens who have homes were damaged by the earthquake.
Turkey, which appealed the world to help it deal with this earthquake, received an international response from more than 70 countries, led by the state of Kuwait, which immediately began with its charitable organizations the necessary preparations to help Turkey.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to further enrich our coverage from and with the latest updates for this tragic incident. And for further information about it, joining us now from Turkey, Hussein Koreç, Vice President of IHH Humanitarian Relief Foundation. Good evening, sir, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me, and good evening.
It's our pleasure. How is the search and rescue effort so far? And what about the international solidarity in relief and rescue?
Thank you very much. And it is the third long and very cold night. Unfortunately, thousands of people, millions of people are out of their houses and they are suffering too much. As you say, the priority is the rescue operation. This is the third day and it is the last period of the rescue operation. And it is going well. It is much more better than the first day. More than 60 countries, they have sent their rescue teams to Turkey. And in many cities of the Turkey, they have sent more rescue teams. Almost 70,000 people are working for the rescue operations now on the rubbers. And they are making their efforts to keep as much as more people from the collapsed building. It is much more better than before, much more better than yesterday, and in every time, new people are rescuing from the collapsed buildings. But time is very limited. As we can know from the other operations, first 72 hours are very important, and we are getting very close, and the last few hours for the critical time.
Sir, what about the danger situation that announced between now and then? There are some kind of aftershocks that you people are still experiencing in this dilemma. Could you elaborate on that?
Two big earthquakes happened back to back. The first, the very early morning, 7.7. The second big earthquake, independent earthquake, 7.6, happened on the noon time. After these two big earthquakes, more than 600 aftershock happened. Even the magnitudes of these earthquakes is not small. Even some of them is over 6. And it is affecting too much to rescue operations. And because of these aftershocks, the people are caring too much. Even their buildings not affected, they are not go in their buildings. Because of this, the humanitarian suffering is getting much more worse because of these aftershocks. As scientists say, it is happening, and day by day it will be decreased, and we are waiting to decrease of number and magnitudes of aftershocks.
In light of the impact of some main roads in the affected areas, does this hinder their relief efforts?
Actually, of course, it is a very big earthquake. And from one point to another point is 500 kilometers. And it is bigger than the many countries in the world. And almost 10 big cities have been affected, and maybe 15 million of people have been affected. And infrastructure affected too much. On the first day, many of the roads and the bridge have been destroyed. But today they have government officials, they have opened the alternative roads, and it is much more easier than the first day. And it is now easy to reach the earthquake affected area.
With the announcement of that, the death toll has risen to more than 8,000 people. Do we expect more of difficulties of removing the rebels?
Just 1 hour before, President Erdogan, he was on the earthquake affected area, and he gave the last figure. 9,057 people have been killed in this earthquake, 9,054. And probably there is still many people under the collapsed buildings. The number will be more than this. Nobody can predict, but the number of the collapsed buildings is around 11,000. If 11,000 buildings have been totally demolished, unfortunately, we are expecting the number of the death tolls more than this.
Could you tell us about the international support to recover the damage of the earthquake?
We are mentioning and underlying that this is a huge earthquake, and any country cannot handle the issue itself. And therefore, Turkey has invited the international community. And for rescue operations, more than 60 countries they have sent. And now the many countries they have started to their operations. And from today, international organizations, NGOs, start to came to Turkey. This morning we have received two NGOs from the Kuwait, and they have started to search on the ground, and they will participate or relief operations. And we are expecting more. Especially, we know the Kuwait and the Kuwaiti people, Emir of the Kuwait, how they are cooperative for these kinds of operations. And they was leading the relief operation in different parts of the world. Even now, it is need to be said, on the Syrian crisis, we have established a very big container camp with the Kuwaiti organization. Now we are using these container villages for earthquake victim people, and we will continue. We are getting much more support from the all Arab Muslim countries.
Mr. Hussein Orchis, Vice President of IHH Humanitarian Relief Foundation, thank you so much. You are with us right here on KTV2. Thank you so much.
Devastating earthquakes shook the world, uttering nothing but brotherly stances to aid the Turkish Republic and Syria. Kuwait is racing time to extend the humanitarian hand, lifting off our brothers and sisters in those nations, manifested by Kuwaiti aid and medical equipment carried through airplanes, performed by Kuwaiti personnel from the Kuwait Fire Force, Kuwait Red Crescent Society, Kuwaiti Army, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Ministry of Health. Kuwait expresses solidarity in facing such catastrophic earthquakes.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As we know that countries around the world are rushing to send rescue workers, equipment, and aid after a powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake rocked Turkey and Syria early Monday. The pledges of assistance came from countries across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, as well as North America. More details in the following report.
Countries around the world are rushing to send in rescue workers, equipment, and aid after a powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake rocked Turkey and Syria early Monday. The pledges of assistance came from countries across Europe, Asia, the Middle East, as well as North America. The state of Kuwait dispatched the first relief flight of its humanitarian air bridge to Turkey upon the directives of His Highness the Emir Sheikh Nawaf al-Ahmad al-Jabr al-Sabah. May Allah protect him and bless him. The state of Qatar said it would send 120 rescue workers to Turkey alongside a field hospital, relief aid, tents, and winter supplies. The European Union has mobilized 10 search and rescue teams for Turkey after the stricken country requested EU assistance. EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell and EU Crisis Management Commissioner Janice Lennocrick said. Moreover, the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, said 2 of India's National Disaster Response Force teams, comprising 100 personnel with doctors, paramedics, and equipments, were ready to be flown to the affected areas. The German Interior Minister, Nancy Faeser, said Germany will also mobilize all the assistance it can activate and will set up camps to provide shelter as well as water treatment units for the affected. On the other hand, the Russian President Vladimir Putin promised to send Russian teams to both countries. In Ukraine, President Zelensky said that the war-torn country was ready to provide the necessary assistance to overcome the consequences of this disaster. Furthermore, Sweden, Greece, Poland, Spain, Canada, France, Britain, and Japan announced that they are sending search and rescue teams, as well as emergency aid and medical equipment to help the 2 disaster-stricken countries.
Teams arriving in Turkey from across the world and providing vital support to search and rescue efforts in the quick hit zone and continues to rescue people from under the rubble. More details with Iman Demirham brings us from Turkey.
With their bare hands and unbearable cold, rescue teams continue with all their might to search for survivors among the rubble of thousands of buildings that collapsed after the series of devastating earthquake that hit the southeast of the country.
We are currently directing the majority of our efforts to 6 areas that are mostly affected, and we are trying as much as we can to rescue those who remain under the rubble. Rescue teams working day and night for this.
The total non-final toll indicates that the deaths has exceeded 6,234 and the injuries have reached 37,000. At the time, rescue operations have entered a critical stage more than 50 hours after the earthquake, as the number of victims is likely to rise because hundreds of families still under the rubble.
I remember that I was talking to my daughter on the phone. She told me, "Mum, I feel tired. I will go to sleep." But she slept forever. She died.
All the people here who are under or above the rubble need urgent help. As you can see, my house has been demolished and currently being carried into tents. We are powerless. I appeal to everyone to help.
The impact of the earthquake was not limited to land, also to the sea, as it led to a rise in the sea level in the coast of Iskenderun in the state of Hatay by about 1.5 meters, which led to water leakage in the roads, increasing the suffering of the people in this area. With their bare hands,
ما نوصيكم انكم تعملون كل ما تستطيعون لتقديم المساعدة لاخواننا المنكوبين في جمهورية تركيا، ان تكونون حريصين على سلامتكم. بالمناسبة أمانة I would like to thank you, your ambassador, to be with us today. and أشكر كذلك ما أنسى وزارة الدفاع متمثلة في سلاح الطيران، ولا أنسى وزارة الصحة متمثلة في الأطقم الطبية اللي موجودة، ولا أنسى وزارة الإعلام من خلال الكادر الإعلامي الموجود، الأطقم مع مصاحبة للفرقة، كذلك الدور الكبير اللي يقومون فيه إخواننا جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي من تقديم دعم. ودائما الكويت سباقة في تقديم اليد المساعدة لجميع الأشقاء والأصدقاء، والله يحفظكم، ترجعون بالسلامة يا أخوان.
The state of Kuwait, from governmental bodies to non-governmental institutes, rushed to aid Turkey after the devastating earthquake that struck the country on Monday. Several ministries and aid organizations were among the first to be over there on the scene to offer the needed help. More details in the following report.
Crews from around the world have been making their way to the epicenter of the earthquake as rescue efforts continue in the rubble of cities, towns, and provinces in Turkey. More than 7,800 people in Turkey have been rescued across 10 provinces so far, and crews from around the world have been making their way to the epicenter of the earthquake to help. The EU has mobilized 27 search and rescue and medical teams from 19 countries to help Turkey. U.S. President Joe Biden said that U.S. teams were deploying quickly to begin to support Turkish search and rescue efforts. National Security spokesman John Kirby said the United States was sending 2 search and rescue teams of 79 people each, while the Pentagon and USAID were coordinating with their Turkish counterparts. The UK is sending 76 search and rescue specialists with equipment and dogs, as well as an emergency medical team to Turkey. The UK also says it is in contact with the UN about getting support to victims in Syria. The Defense Ministry said 300 military personnel deployed in Syria were helping in the clear-up effort. China said its first rescue team started work in Turkey and it was sending $5.9 million in emergency aid, including rescue and medical teams.
And to shed the light on the Kuwaiti Fire Force's role in aiding Turkey in the aftermath of the deadly earthquake, we have Lieutenant Colonel Ali Mohammed Quli from KFF. Good evening, sir, and thank you so much for being with us.
Good evening to you and your viewers. Pleasure.
The Kuwaiti Air Bridge will include the participation of the General Fire Force, which takes the initiative to deal with the effect of the earthquake and to contribute in the search and rescue operation for the victims. Could you tell us about that? What about the mechanism of that?
Definitely. As we all know, and looking in the media, Turkey is suffering from a natural disaster, an earthquake, classified as class 4. When we talk about class 4, we're talking about a really serious earthquake. As you all know, it's 7.8 or 7.7 Richter. So in that scale of an earthquake, it's definitely a state of emergency. Therefore, Kuwait, as we always know, we bridge our cooperation with other countries and friendly countries such as Turkey. Command orders from His Highness. What we did is we deployed as a Kuwait Fire Force from the firefighter sector. We have a special squad under the technical and rescue team. We have 40 firefighters have been deployed yesterday with the cooperation of the Kuwait Army Air Force. We're in a cargo plane. We contained, along with the 40 firefighters, equipped with all the necessary machinery that need to be worked on place. We had 10 firefighter vehicles. If we look into these firefighter vehicles, 4 of them consist of confined spaces. So we have the special equipment to be on the ground to assist other troops from other countries to ease and to work in that area. As we all know, it's a very dangerous situation. Therefore, highly instructed firefighters have been deployed from the chain of command. We are in close communications with them. Currently, they are on the ground. They've been given a specific spot to work at, and as the communication has been given, they're very safe. Although there are some obstacles on the ground, such as the transportation. As we all know, when an earthquake strikes, there is an aftermath of an earthquake as well. Therefore, they have to be very aware of dealing with the surrounding buildings. And as we all know, the situation is very serious. It's our job as the firefighters to bridge the gap and work with the other teams and firefighters and the civil defense in Turkey. So far, the team, as I mentioned, is on spot, and they're working throughout the clock. And we hopefully wish them all the best and to ease the catastrophe on Turkey.
That was Lieutenant Colonel Ali Quli from the Kuwait Fire Force. Thank you so much, sir.
ما نوصيكم انكم تعملون كل ما تستطيعون لتقديم المساعدة لاخواننا المنكوبين في جمهورية تركيا، ان تكونون حريصين على سلامتكم. بالمناسبة أمانة I would like to thank you, your ambassador, to be with us today. and أشكر كذلك ما أنسى وزارة الدفاع متمثلة في سلاح الطيران، ولا أنسى وزارة الصحة متمثلة في الأطقم الطبية اللي موجودة، ولا أنسى وزارة الإعلام من خلال الكادر الإعلامي الموجود الأطقم مع مصاحبة للفرقة، كذلك الدور الكبير اللي يقومون فيه إخواننا جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي من تقديم دعم. ودائما الكويت سباقة في تقديم اليد المساعدة لجميع الأشقة والأصدقاء. والله يحفظكم، ترجعون بالسلامة يا أخوان.
And we are back here for the conclusion of our live coverage. We hope that we have been informative and covered all the aspects. Thank you so much for choosing KTV2. There's a lot more to come. Enjoy the rest of the night, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.